Hey guys, what is going on? E-Rounder here, and I'm going to make some more 25 no limit zone games. So hopefully we should get pretty good at the 25 NL zone. Now my webcam is not working today, so I apologize for that. I mean, I'm sure I'll get it to work later, but I just wanted to get this video out so that yeah, I can check that off the list. Yeah, I'm having a really good time with poker right now. So I was out driving Lyft this morning, and I was like, man, I'm really looking forward to getting home and putting some hands in. So I had to, take care of a couple things. I actually, believe it or not, I went down to the gym in my building and went for like a 30-minute run when I got home from driving this morning. So went and got a little bit of exercise today, which is I actually worked out yesterday as well. So we'll see how long that streak keeps up for. I'm gonna go ahead and bet this out because there's no capped ranges or uncapped ranges really here. It was like a limp pot, so we probably have the best hand. It's obviously pretty vulnerable, and may as well just take it down. It's like kind of like free money. Yeah, so overall, things have been going really well with poker the last, week or two. Well, I guess since I finally got some money on Ignition. Versus min raise, we can pretty much just call. We actually flop an open-ended straight, which is kind of cool. Now, I don't think this is a board we ever really want to raise on, and so I'm not going to raise with my draw here, just because I don't really see a need for us to really raise all that much on that flop. So I'm not going to raise here either. Once he does that, though, I am going to go ahead and bet like $4. I'm just going to overbet the pot. I think he almost never checks behind when he's weak there, and I think we can just take that down really well with an overbet. Turn the volume down so hopefully you guys don't hear any beeping in the background, or even if you do, hopefully it'll be nice and quiet. Also wearing the headphones today. Let me know if you guys notice, if you watch these and you notice a difference between when I do wear the headphones and when I don't wear the headphones. Let me know if that is significant enough that I should choose one over the other. I don't know if I forget if I mentioned this in the last video, but I was playing some zone poker on my own, and I definitely noticed that I am much better about folding my bad cards when I play on my own. This could have been a missed continuation bet. This might be a spot where we just c bet 100%, right? With our on that board. Like, that board is just so good for our range and relatively bad for our opponents that we may bet 100%. Even if we bet like a quarter pot 100%, I think that's probably correct. Let's look at it real quick. So we had, we had 10 jack here, which actually has some equity. But on king, king, ace, when we're the pre-flop opener with the uncapped range against our opponent in the small blind calling who knows what, we probably want to just fire a quarter pot size bet. Trying to think like if quarter pot or full pot is correct there. I would think quarter pot, because our range is so strong and we're going to have so many hands that we can bet with, would work. But I could be wrong. It could be that we're not going to bet that often. And our range is still really strong, but maybe we're not betting that often, and therefore we shouldn't be betting that small. Because generally speaking, the smaller we're betting, the more frequently we're betting. So if we're betting 100%, we probably want to bet small. If we're not betting as often, but we are like crushing it, we want to bet larger. So, we can kind of take from that what we will, and I guess decide, are we betting big and a little bit less frequently, or are we betting small and very often? So on that spot, even though we crush the board, because we can probably bet very often, we may want to bet small. So we really whiffed this. Man, that almost looks like a good hand. Same thing here, though. Like, I really don't think that we're ever... Right? Like, I don't think our opponent has much here. So let's bet, like, 10. Or, actually, let's just jam all in. Fuck. You got us. Sorry, I did not mean to swear. That's okay. So he slow played a nut flush, which is okay. The reason that I didn't want to, so there's a couple things we could have done there, and if I had my hold'em, my poker tracker running, I would make a note on that hand, obviously, because we could go back and look at what the right play was. But let's pull it back up. So the first thing is, like, not to get too worked up about it. All right, so yeah, we lost an all-in, like, bluffing with complete air. However, I mean, we block a lot of the straights. Unfortunately, we don't block any of the flushes. And I mean, he really slow played this thing, right? So, like, he definitely played it, I guess, well, if he knows that his opponent's gonna overbet jam bluff. But that's hard to know, I think, in general. Let's go ahead and 3-bet this ace jack. The thing to think about here is with the stack sizes the way they were. I'll put the hand away because I can just talk about it. But with how the stack sizes were in that spot, if we bet full pot and he raised, we can probably get away from it. If we overbet the pot, it makes it a lot harder because we only had $22 left. So when I looked at the stack size, I realized, well, if I bet 10 here and he jams, like, I mean, yeah, we can fold, obviously, but, like, now we've put in half our stack and then we're going to fold. And that's, you know, really not great. And so, obviously, the highest amount of fold equity would be to jam all in. Now, we ran into the stone cold nuts on that spot. So it's hard to determine, like, you know, what he's calling with. Obviously, he's calling with the stone cold nuts, but, like, you know, is somebody in that spot maybe folding, like, the third nut flush, or are they, you know, at least folding their two pair or top pair type hands? Probably. And the way he played that as weakly, you know, as he pretty much represented a very weak made hand. So I don't necessarily think my play is correct, but I'm also not that upset about it. Right? Like, when you run into the nut hand, you know, you don't learn too much from that, other than a little bit about maybe how that player is thinking and playing. But I was honestly just assuming that guy was going to fold there. And, you know, I was a little rushed on my sizing, so I clearly picked a sizing that probably wasn't the best. But that's okay. We will live and learn and move on. So this guy raises. I mean, he, like, min raises, and he's got position on us, so I am going to go ahead and raise it back. I'll just make a little pot size re-raise. This 10 jack, you know, we're out of position, so... Oh, shit! Shoot! Ah! God! Fuck. Alright, well, I'll need to edit this video a little bit. I'll clean up this audio a bit so that it's not quite as vulgar. That's really frustrating. I really wish that there was at least some sort of time bank on zone poker. That's irritating. Trying to have a nice, relaxing session, chatting with you guys, explaining a little bit of thought process. But I've said it before, I need to make my play and then talk about it. That's really the answer, is just make the play and then talk about it afterwards. I've talked about why I think that can be a little bit harmful sometimes because I might make a play and then justify doing it, as opposed to, have a clear thought process and then make the play. I may make the play and then try to like back end a thought process into it, but that's just the risk we're going to have to take. You guys are usually pretty good at calling me out in the comments when I do that anyway. If I try to, make some sort of justification for a play, you guys are pretty good about, calling me out on it. I didn't notice this guy's stack size, but I think the play is still fine. The 1347 over here. Calling is probably still plus EV. I did update a few of the ranges in Flopzilla, by the way. I updated all just the opening ranges. So today I will try and go through and update some of the cold calling ranges in Flopzilla. So this is a spot I do want to look at more. I know that if two of those cards are suited, or at least I believe that I know, if two of those cards are suited, I want to make a very large pot size bet as my continuation bet, if I'm going to bet. I mean, I can check sometimes too. I probably should bet here as well. We're pretty deep with this guy, and we've got position. But when it's when I have top two pair on a board like the King Jack, and it's a rainbow board, I'm not sure if maybe I need to either check more often or tone down my bet size to increase the frequency of calls, since there's a whole plethora of suited hands that are no longer really in his calling range that we have beat. It may be a situation where I want to tone down the bet size to either half pot or quarter pot in order to get more calls from like second and third pair type hands. I'm not sure about that. That's just my thought. I'm quite confident that if that board was double suited, that the full size, the pot size bet is correct. But where it's not, I think we can lower our bet size or our bet frequency. One of the two. If we lower our frequency, the bet size obviously stays high. If we lower the bet size, then we can continue with a nice high frequency. And here, I think we just want to bet large, right? $2 seems fine. There's an ace out there, so that's like pretty good, right? We want to probably continue betting large to make sure we can get all the money in. Maybe like 550. I know that's not a perfect little amount, but that should make it pretty easy to jam no matter what happens here. Hopefully we get like another 9. And I guess we just shove. Hopefully this guy doesn't have the straight or the flush. There's definitely hands that beat us, but we're never folding, so. And we've got the 9 blocker on the spades. I don't know. Okay. That's unfortunate. We maybe should have bet bigger on the turn. I'm not sure if there's... I don't know if there's too much we could have done differently. I think that hand went all right. Man, I'm drinking my bulletproof coffee today, and I ran out of... Man, we are hitting some decent hands. Like, if we just stop folding, like open folding, we'll do really well. If we just like didn't open fold or juff blam, bluff jam, we would be in good shape. We're gonna bet small here. We're gonna bet like a quarter pot. I mean, quarter pot's hard to do when the blinds are so small, but that's the general idea. So we'll just go like $1. And again, pay attention here. Like, we can bet $1 here as a bluff and take it down, almost as often, right? We're blocking one card in the entire deck, that 10, and that bluff works, just about as well when we don't have the 10. That bet works, I should say. It's obviously not a bluff when we have the nuts. But, keep in mind on those boards that one thing I've noticed with studying with Snowy is that Snowy gets pretty aggressive sometimes with, like, air. Snowy definitely gets aggressive with air occasionally. Snowy also favors, I've noticed, like if I go to, I don't think I have squeezes on my little thing. Okay, so once this guy squeezes, we actually are going to fold the ace queen, which might surprise some people, but yeah, I do want to go through and get all these ranges. I would love to figure out like Snowy's a pretty good system. Flopzilla is a pretty good system for like just checking pre-flop ranges on the fly once in a while. But I would love something even better. I don't know what it would be or what it would look like. But I mean, I guess what I want is probably not a good thing to have out there. It's probably like not really appropriate. I was gonna fold that, don't worry. But like just something that pretty much, I guess something that plays pre-flop for you. Yeah, that's not really appropriate. But something where you can look up hands a little bit faster would be nice. I guess the key is just memorizing your ranges. One thing that I've played with a little bit that's also interesting is seeing how Snowy reacts to limps and things of that nature. I don't know exactly how valuable that is, which is, I guess, an obvious statement. But it is interesting to look at if you put a limp in and then you view the player's range in a Snowy scenario. Maybe I'll pull this up after we're done playing. Obviously, Snowy's closed right now. But maybe after we're done playing, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. But, they have a range that's like, I guess what Snowy thinks is not, they don't think it's optimal, but if you're going to limp, this is the range you should be doing it with. I'm torn on that general idea because if somebody is limping, like they're obviously not really doing what's correct. And so if they're not doing what's correct, are they going to be limping the most correct range? Like, probably not. But it definitely does give you a starting point, which is always like you have to have a starting point for some assumptions on what might be happening. Oop, that could have been an open. I hit the fold button on this left screen, so I'm not sure why that didn't fold. So looking at those pre-flop ranges is definitely interesting, and looking at what happens when a couple players limp. Snowy really tightens up if two players limp, which I think a lot of players are saying like, oh, I'm going to raise it up and isolate with all my hands. And sometimes you might be, I guess you'd have to look at your stats, right? You got to go into your database and look like, hey, when I'm isolating two limpers, like how am I doing? Am I winning a lot of money doing that? Am I winning a lot of money with my kings, or am I winning a lot of money with Jack 9 offsuit? And you need a lot of hands to look at that kind of stuff. But if you took sort of let's just here, I'll do it sort of off screen and then I'll bring it onto the screen. But if you wanted to be like, all right, how do I do with this, let me just fold these guys. Like, how do I do when I isolate limpers with these hands, right? Like these sort of like kind of bad offsuit hands, and I'm isolating limpers. Like, is that working for me? Is it not working for me? What am I actually isolating with? Do I do it with these hands also? Do I go that way and isolate? And if so, is it working? Those are good questions to ask yourself. I think, to sort of keep yourself honest about, what you're doing and if it's working. Wonder what hand I just folded. Anyway. Because, Snowy doesn't really recommend isolating limpers with really weak hands, especially out of position like in the small blind. And that, I think, makes sense. Like, you're in the small blind with a weak hand and there's multiple players in the pot. Like, are you really going to make that much money in those spots? Like, probably not. Let's not time out on the right table. I'm going to stop talking. Again, we have the ace on that left-hand table, but we bet $1.25 into a $5 pot and got a fold. I get it. It's a tough board to defend. That's why we're betting small, in those spots. So just keep that in mind. On paired boards, a small bet is very effective. All right, we're battling back from our first little misstep. I actually like having stuff like that up once in a while, right? Like that's probably like a spew play. Like if we look at it in Snowy later, and maybe what I'll do is I'll actually just recreate it in Snowy, and even if I can't get the hand history in, because for whatever reason I'm having some issue with Ignition hand history still. I will hopefully, I really want to get that resolved. I'm going to go ahead and contact them again to see if there's an issue or not, or if we can figure out what's going on. But 3-bet small blind versus MP. Yeah, no, that was not a 3-bet. And here we have the same thing. We were pre-flop razor. We got 9-7-7. We could go like 85. Oh, God darn mother. I was gonna do a nice small little bet, and now this guy's gonna bet, and we have to fold. That's okay. I bet there may not have been correct anyway. I think occasionally timing out saves us some money, but most of the time it's not good. What was I going to say? I forgot. Oh, yeah, maybe I'll try to recreate one of those hands. Probably pretty safe to check raise here. Just go ahead and make a nice big check raise. This is one of those spots that's like, it's just really not that stressful, right? I mean, no matter what happens, like, it's not going to be too ugly or too difficult. King 8 suited I would have opened. King Jack offsuit is another hand that like I used to like 3-bet or do stuff with. Same thing here. Like, do we isolate this guy? He's under the gun. Like, he's got a weak range. We've got a weak range. I'm going to go ahead and isolate, but, like, Snowy may just muck this. Like, Snowy really may just fold this hand here. And, again, it really depends on, like, does a guy with... we're not playing against Snowy, and so some of that is not going to apply. We're playing a guy that has, $14 and is limping under the gun. So, whatever assumptions Snowy's playing under, right, are very different than the ones that are true with this guy. Yeah, we're going to fold, but it's close. If it were heads up, it would be closer. If we were in position, it would be even closer. And if we had any possibility of a straight, it would be a call. But like we're like 3 steps away from that being a reasonable place to continue playing, I think. Which is another way to think about a hand. Like where do we need to be to actually stay involved in this hand? And on that one, we were a little too far away, I think. Which is not... Sometimes I'm wrong about that because, again, like if you start using Snowy and working with Snowy, like there are some spots where it takes a hand with like 0 equity, which I, have always sort of believed and thought and been told in the past that you really don't want to take like 0 equity hands and bluff with them, right? You always want to have some outs. Snowy's not really in that boat, and I'm not sure if it comes down to blockers necessarily or what's going on. But yeah, Snowy doesn't always really care if you have 0 equity. Here we've got a couple backdoor draws. Now we're going to continue betting because we turned a gut shot. And now we'll fold. Did we turn it to gut shot? Maybe we didn't. Yeah, we needed a jack first, right? That was a gut shot. All right, we're up to 25 minutes. I was going to demo some of the limping stuff with Poker Snowy, but you know what? I actually feel like that deserves its own little session. So if you guys are interested in that and you want to kind of go over some stuff with how Snowy plays against limpers and do a little bit of study on that, maybe pick a couple hands from the videos. Like if you look through the zone poker videos that we've done so far, like this will be episode 6. All right, so we've got about 3 hours of zone poker play that maybe we can pick some hands. So in this video, if there's a hand from another video that we haven't talked about or that you saw that you think we should go over, leave it in the comments of either that video or this video. I'll look at all of them. I'll pretty much go through all the comments of all the zone poker episodes I've done. I'll make this a project for tomorrow that I'll make sure I knock out. And go ahead, or maybe the next day, because it may take a couple days to get some comments and for people to actually see this video. So by the end of the week, let's say Friday, maybe Friday I'll make this video. That's fine. Jack 8 doesn't need to be opened. That'll be the target is Friday. So go ahead, get your comments in on these zone poker videos, and then I'll go ahead and review some of the most interesting hands and try to make them like multi-way pots, because that's one thing that I think Snowy's really strong with, is analyzing multi-way pots, because there's really no other software that can do it, as far as I know, right? There's no other good like multi-way pot software out there that is going to be able to like tell you what to do. And the thing is how many flops do we go to heads up? Like it's not that many. At this level of play, you see a lot of multi-way flops, and I think that really is tough for players, because pretty much everything you study, everything you read about in books, I mean, even applications of No Limit Hold'em, there's like one small little chapter on multi-way pots, and then the other hundreds of pages are on heads up. Yeah, so fold. So yeah, put some comments on which hands you want to see. Try to include multi-way pots. Try to include multi-way pots, and try to include limped pots, because that's the type of stuff that software that has played. I don't know if you guys have heard me talk about Snowy. I used to say like, oh, it's played millions and millions of hands against itself. I talked to somebody on the Snowy team the other day. We were having just a discussion about some of the projects I was doing with them and what we were doing. And I asked them, I was like, when I say millions and millions of hands, is that accurate? Am I saying too many? Am I not saying enough? Is it millions? Is it billions? Like, how many hands is Snowy actually playing? Like, how fast does it go? And he's like, no, it's in like the hundreds of trillions. Like, it's trillions of hands. So my theory on like trusting Snowy for pre-flop, because everybody else is just sort of guessing, and Snowy has actually played trillions of hands. I used to say millions, but it's trillions of hands against itself, means that really there's no logical reason to think that what you come up with for pre-flop starting hands could possibly be closer to correct than what Snowy has. So my confidence in Snowy is pretty high, as you guys probably know, and I just think that it plays a very, very solid game that while obviously it's probably not perfect, right? We know it's probably not perfect. We do know that it is very solid. And so if we can, glean some information from that and learn from it, it's worth doing. So that's my little spiel on that. What do we got here? Okay. All right, we're at the almost at the 30-minute mark. We'll sit out next big blind on both these and call it a session. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We definitely had some interesting hands to talk about. I'm sure one of the hands that I'll do is that ridiculous overbet bluff that failed. But that's okay. I'm not upset about it. It's just you learn new stuff, you try new stuff. Sometimes it doesn't work. Oh, this coffee's not very good. I don't remember if I mentioned it. I mentioned I was drinking my coffee, but I ran out of MCT oil. And so my coffee does not taste as good as it usually does. Or I guess it's like not as like frothy. Or it's not as rich because it doesn't have the MCT oil in it. Let's see here. King 8-2 Rainbow. I don't know. Running pretty low on outs here, and we're out of position. So, you know, wait, no, we're in position actually. 6, 7, 8, 9. We got the 4 cards straight. You know, if we gave up every time we, you know, screwed up a hand, then we wouldn't learn much. So, just keep trying. I wonder what this guy has. I don't know, but he folded. All right, so the double pot bet works occasionally. Probably don't jam all in there. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope there were enough interesting spots that you can leave some comments. Check out the other videos in this series. Right after I'm done talking, there'll be some annotations that you can probably click on other videos that are either recent or ones that it recommends you should watch. So check those out, leave some comments, and we will get into some nitty-gritty study stuff later on this week that hopefully you all enjoy. This is U-Rounder, and until next time, you guys keep on grinding.